So we got about 4 days to finish 2 chapters. There's just a bunch of stuff that's gonna happen in this chapter. Guys, I found it. Oh, look at that cheese pull. Welcome to week 1 of the Anarchist writing vlogs. This week and in this video, we are going to be finishing book 2 of my space opera series, Elysium Rising. I'm also going to be diving into a little bit more about the story, characters, plot, and doing a little bit of world building along the way. But before I do any writing, I want to catch you guys all up to speed on where exactly I'm at in the story right now. New angle unlocked. Before I get into any actual writing for the day, and in fact for the week, because today is Wednesday, June 25th. I didn't do any writing Tuesday because Tuesdays, Thursdays are kind of a tough day for me to write as I'm not always around my computer and stuff. But I did do a little bit of writing on Monday. I did do a little bit of chapter 8 that you guys can see behind me. Only did like 185 words or something like that. I'll get to why I didn't write too much on Monday and like what stopped me from, writing more of chapter 8 later. But before I want to get into my writing session for today, which I will be challenging myself to write 3,000 words today. So that's probably going to be the entirety of chapter 8. I want to give you guys a little bit of context on where I'm at in the story. I know I mentioned in the intro video and probably in the intro to this video that I'm on chapter 7 of this book, and chapter 7 is 2 chapters away from being the end of act 1. And I actually wanted to show you guys my sticky note board. I took it off the wall. You guys probably can't read it at all, but I'll just try and show you the best way I can. All the lime green sticky notes, those are act 1. Orange, act 2. Blue, act 3. I'm off the screen. We're here. I want to get to here by the end of this video. We got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a little bit Saturday as I want to edit and finish filming the video to put it out on Sunday. So we got about 4 days to finish 2 chapters. That's about 6,000 words in 2 days. I think that's possible. What's on these sticky notes basically is like a 1-sentence descriptor of what happens in the chapter, and then I have it broken down into how many scenes I'm anticipating that chapter to be. So chapter 7 is about 1 to 2 scenes, so maybe it won't be 3,000 words, maybe it'll be closer to 2,500. Who knows? I still have to write the thing. But yeah, wanted to give you guys a little bit of context on where we're at in the story. We're on chapter 7, towards the end of act 1. And so far, I won't say nothing has happened in the story because that would be kind of bad. I'm on chapter 7 and nothing has happened. I would say things are happening. It's just not as action-packed as I'm used to. The way I describe this book when I'm like thinking about it and comp titles and stuff like that and inspiration, I always go to Star Wars and Hunger Games. It's the scale of Star Wars meets the general plot of the Hunger Games. There's the Elysian Empire, which is basically like the capital or the empire in Star Wars. And then there's the rebellion, which are like the 12 districts or the rebellion in Star Wars. And basically my main characters are a part of the rebellion. They're trying to rise up and take down the Elysian Empire. And this is book 2 in Elysium Rising. And basically my main character, Iggy Amrata, he is now a full-fledged rebel. In book 1, which is called Gladiator, he was kind of, teetering the fence, wasn't sure which side he wanted to be on, as he had influence from the Empire, the Emperor himself, Emperor Voltaire Alcastis, and his fiance, one of the other main characters of this series, Noya Adani, and he had influence from the rebellion side, and his mentor, Orion Tenek, who goes by 10 in the books. I call him 10. I love that guy. If I ever do publish these books and you guys read book 1, please don't be mad at me for what happens to 10. That's enough on that. Iggy's getting influence from the rebellion side from 10 and Jackson Gunn, who is like the 3rd main character of this series. He is a pilot turned rebel. There's a little bit more on his backstory, which I do get into in this book. That's one of the things I'm most excited about for writing Anarchist, which is book 2. We get to delve into Jackson's backstory a little bit more. And then at this point in the book, I'm supposed to be giving you guys context. I don't think I've given any context yet. At this point in the story, we're 7 chapters in. I've established that ever since Iggy, Jackson, and Noya have officially joined the rebellion, the chancellor of the rebellion, whose name is Masadi, or as Miley pronounces it, Masada. I'm not quite sure which pronunciation I like better. I kind of liked Masadai when Miley read my chapters. She read it on the Discord server that we're in. and that was really amazing and really scary at the same time. But yeah, I don't know how to pronounce the name now, but I guess you could say it either way. But I'm getting off track. Mos Dai is the Chancellor of the Exarian Alliance, the rebellion who was fighting against the Elysian Empire. And now that Iggy is officially a part of the rebellion, he has been taken under the wing of the Chancellor and kind of been made to be the poster boy of the entire rebellion. He's like a symbol of what, you know, the Empire's subjects can do if they do decide to take arms and rise up and fight back. So Iggy's kind of been paraded around the galaxy as they go on a tour to different planets and try to get them to rebel and fight back against the Empire. And that's like pretty much where we open with chapter 1. Progressively throughout the chapters, Iggy wants to fight in the war. Like, he's not content with just being a poster boy, especially because the Alliance is losing. He wants to fight. And so Jackson Gunn, who has kind of been put on punishment in a bit for failing his mission in book 1. He's been kind of taken off missions and fallen out of favor with the Chancellor and the Alliance. He's kind of just been relegated to training other recruits how to fly and stuff like that. He's basically not allowed to leave Zanaru, which is the headquarters of the Alliance. But he finds out some information about what the Empire is planning, specifically a weapon that they're building. He brings it to Iggy's attention, and together the two of them start to conduct their own investigation on what the Empire is doing and how they can stop them, because no one else is taking it seriously. So this is pretty much like what Act 1 is about. It's them delving deeper into this conspiracy, trying to figure out why no one's taking it seriously, if this Empire weapon is even real, and what they can actually do about it. And so that, I would say that's about the first 4 chapters of this book. In chapter 5 and 6, they're really taking their investigation more seriously. They're finding smaller pieces of evidence and stuff, and then something happens that lets them know that this is a real threat and someone somewhere does not want them knowing about it. And that's how we get to chapter 7, which was a bit of an interrogation scene with Chancellor Masadi. And then chapter 8, I'm not going to say it's the inciting incident, because I feel like the inciting incident already happened. It just wasn't like a big, you know, world-changing event. I think it's chapter 8, which is, I'll just say, maybe that's the inciting incident part 2. This is when the story really kicks off and we're pushed into Act 2. And this is the chapter that I'm going to be writing in a couple of minutes. I'll just say what this chapter is meant to accomplish. Iggy and Jackson are planning on fleeing Zanaru, the headquarters of the Alliance, after it went on lockdown because of what happened in chapters 5 and 6. That's going to be incredibly hard to do because the whole thing, the whole planet, the whole headquarters, the base, whatever, just went on lockdown. And how are they going to be leaving when everything is shut down? So that's kind of what I have to figure out in this chapter. And it's going to be like the first big action set piece of the entire book. There was a smaller action set piece in chapter 5, I believe, but it was small. It was just a small chase. This chapter 8 is also a chase, but it's a lot bigger than that, as they're fleeing an entire planet. There's just a bunch of stuff that's going to happen in this chapter, and I want to make sure I get it right, as it's like the indicator when the reader is reading this book is going to be like, okay, this is like what I signed up for. So kind of feeling a little pressure writing this, and that's part of the reason why. And that's part of the reason why I only wrote 185 words of this chapter on Monday. I don't know exactly how to handle this chapter. And another reason for that is I lost my red notebook that I bought for this project. Every time I start a new project, I buy a composition notebook and I plan my chapters out in them. In fact, I'll show you guys. This is the one I did for Court of Rooks, if you guys remember those videos. This is where I have all of the chapter outlines and just like random stuff about the book in this notebook. A couple months ago, it fell. A couple months ago, I bought a red one because Anarchist's color is red. You guys have seen the cover, I think. I bought a red composition notebook. That's where I was planning out all the chapters, and that actually helps me get into the zone of writing, because while these sticky notes, again, the sticky notes, while these are great for having like a roadmap and seeing my progression on where I'm at in the story, having a more detailed chapter outline actually gives me a better roadmap for what I'm actually writing. And the funny thing is, most of the time, I don't even reference what's in the notebook after I'm done writing it, but just writing it alone gets it in my brain and gets the juices flowing. And I haven't done that pretty much all of this project so far. I've been kind of winging everything, which I don't know if I can say I'm a pantser anymore. I think I've fallen in love with the planning aspect of things. Of course, I still leave room to come up with spontaneous ideas. Like, for an example, writing this book, because I've been pantsing the whole thing pretty much. I came up with an entire religion that explains the backstory of my antagonists, but it kind of works itself into another subplot that I have in this book that I really want to build up. And I just came up with it on the fly, but like it makes so much sense. Like it's kind of like it was always there. I just didn't know about it. The other guy in my head knew about it. I'm not getting into that right now. Maybe in another video I'll explain what I mean by that, but I'm not schizophrenic, I promise. But like, yeah. So I need to find that red notebook. And then once I find the red notebook, I can start writing. Guys, I found it. It was under another notebook, the Ivory Crypt notebook. See it? This is the Ivory Crypt one, but this is the Anarchist one. Get rid of that. Now that I've found this notebook, I can now plan out the next chapter and finally get to writing. I've officially finished plotting out the first scene of chapter 8. Now it's time to transform this into a full-fledged scene. Alright, so I finished my first writing session of the day, and it was a bit of a long one. I can't believe I didn't try to find my notebook earlier because I got a lot of words written. I started at 10:40. I did a couple sprints with Miley, so shout out to Miley. I did a couple of 20-minute sprints, and I was averaging about 740 words a sprint, which is very abnormal for me, especially in a 20-minute sprint. Usually that's closer to my 30-minute sprint average, but the words on this chapter especially were kind of just flying out, and I think that tends to happen with me when I'm writing, you know, faster paced chapters. So this writing session's done. I didn't quite write 3,000 words, but I'm pretty close to it. My goal for the week was to at least have a day where I wrote 3,000 words in a single day. I did not accomplish that Monday, did not accomplish that Tuesday, but Wednesday, it looks like I'm going to be able to hit this goal. I just logged my words so far on my Trackbear. And also, if you guys want to join my Trackbear leaderboard that I have for my Discord server, you guys can join the Discord server via the link in the description. And I'll also be leaving the link to the Trackbear leaderboard in the description as well. If you guys want to join and track your words and also see my progress and everything, you definitely want to be a part of that. But after today's writing session so far, I've pretty much written 2,400 words. I'm rounding up a little bit, but I have 19 words until I get to 2,400. So I'm just going to say 2,400. Of course, I still got about 500 left to go until I meet that goal, but I think that's very manageable as I'm not even done with chapter 8. I am done with the first scene, which is why, you know, I stopped to record this part. Really loving how this chapter is. It's got a nice blend of action, stakes, humor, and it's driving the plot forward. I really like how I decided to handle, you know, this scene because I needed to come up with a realistic way for my characters to break protocol and escape a military base while it's on lockdown. And it's not just like it's a human military base, it's like an alien military base with advanced technology and spaceships and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I did a pretty good job. Now that I'm done with the dishes, it's time to make a little bit of lunch before I get into my second and last writing session of the day. It's currently 2:45. It's a bit of a late lunch. I kinda don't eat a lot. I may or may not have an eating disorder. That's a conversation for another time. So originally, I wasn't even going to like make lunch, but I was like, hey, why not make something cool, or not cool, but something out of the ordinary for the video. And I was like, hey, let's make a grilled cheese sandwich. And then I went into my refrigerator and realized I didn't have any Kraft singles. So instead, I'm going to be doing something I've never done before, which is I'm making a grilled cheese sandwich with Trader Joe's pepper jack cheese. I think I got enough slices. I don't know if this is gonna turn out well. So you guys are gonna find out with me if this is a good sandwich or not. Alright, I finished my sandwich. I think it came out decent. One of these sides is not like the other, but when it's cut up, it kind of doesn't matter. But look at that cheese, man. I'm a little scared because it's all pepper jack and not the cheese I'm used to, but we're gonna have the first bite. Oh, look at that cheese pull. Look at that cheese pull, that's crazy. It's still going. That's actually pretty good. What I'm gonna say is going to sound weird, but when I eat grilled cheese sandwiches with like the regular cheese, I put syrup on top of them. I didn't think it was fitting to do that with this cheese because this cheese is kind of spicy, but like this is pretty good. Look at this cheese pull. All right, I'm gonna eat this sandwich and then we're gonna get straight back into writing. Okay, so I have finished my second writing session of the day and I finished chapter 8, which is a very long scene. It didn't end up being the 2 scenes that I thought it would be. It kind of ended up just being one really long continuous scene, but it's mostly action, so I'm kind of okay with that. Usually I try to keep scenes to maximum 2K words, but it didn't work out this way. The chapter is about 3,000 words. It's pretty long for one scene, but I do think there's enough interesting things in there to justify not having a scene break. I actually started chapter 9 towards the tail end of my writing session because I was really in the groove and I'm really liking where I'm going, because one thing that was tripping me up with Act 1 so far was establishing the subplot with Iggy and the Centauri Order. The Centauri Order is basically my universe's version of the Jedi Order. They were a religious group of magic users who acted as peacekeepers throughout the galaxy, and during what is called the Second War, they were completely wiped out by the Elysian Empire. And in book 1, we learned that Iggy's father was attempting to learn more about the Centauri Order and even tried to restart it on his own before he disappeared. That plotline doesn't really get touched on much in Act 1. Like, it's a little bit important for other things, but the Centauri Order itself isn't really that important in book 1. But in book 2, I really wanted to have the subplot, well, Iggy's subplot, being him delving into his own investigation on what happened to his father and how he can learn more about the Centauri Order. This chapter actually is him asking Noya Adani what she knows about the Centauri Order, because she is a magic user. She comes from the birthplace of magic. Her planet of Eos is where magic originates, or at least that's what they say to people. In my own head, I know that's not true, but that's just what the Demogens say. Well, that's the race of people there are, Demogens. That's just what they say to people. He's asking her at the moment what she knows about the Order, and she's a little bit reluctant to give him the information that she has. It's not much information, but she is being a little withholding for reasons. And yeah, I think I'm doing a good job of building up this subplot, because now I've got a couple of chapters where it's mentioned. It's definitely not the forefront of the story, because the forefront of the story is the group trying to find out what secret weapon the Empire is building, how they can stop them, and then later on in the book, there's going to be a heist sequence. So that's like what the main part of the book is, but there is a little subplot of Iggy trying to find out stuff about the Centauri Order. And there's also another subplot under that I'm not going to say because it's a massive spoiler. But yeah, really loving how the story is going. I just wanted to pop in and record this quick clip after the end of my writing session. And yeah, probably gonna sign off for the day as it's 5 o'clock and the NBA draft starts soon. I'm a big sports fan, big basketball and soccer fan. And yeah, gotta tune into the draft tonight because it's gonna be insane. See you guys on Friday, most likely. So it's actually Thursday, June 26th, and I've done a decent amount of writing today, and I actually finished chapter 9. I've got one more chapter until we are completely done with Act 1. It actually ended up getting extended by, I think, a chapter. I just elongated the scenes into more chapters than what was originally planned. So Act 1 is actually now going to be ending on chapter 10. And one thing that I actually did while writing this chapter is I had to come up with a brand new setting. Before my characters go on their journey to an area in my galaxy called the Far Reaches, which is like a lawless, anarchist place of space where no one really rules over anything. There's like pirates and gangs and all kinds of stuff. Before they could head there, they needed to stop on this moon to like refuel and get supplies, and then they could go on their merry way to the Far Reaches. And I didn't have a place already made for this scene or these scenes. I had it written in my notes and stuff. Like I knew they were going to a place, I just didn't know where they were going. And originally it was going to be a planet. And on my Pinterest account, I have multiple boards. I have one for Elysium Rising, which is the whole series. I have one for Anarchist, and I have one that just has pictures of planets, as you guys can see behind me. I was scrolling through the pictures of planets that I had saved already and trying to find some inspiration on what planet my characters could land on. And I decided to actually have them land on a moon that's orbiting a dead gas giant. I did a little bit of world building. I named the gas giant Reth. It's an orange dead gas giant. It's not inhabited by anything, and it's surrounded by rings that are made out of rocks, ice, and dust. But embedded in those rings is a singular moon that is called W-4RI. I think that's what I called it. And if you can spell it out, it spells Wari. So the moon is, everyone calls it Wari. So my characters stop here to refuel, and they get attacked by the main antagonist of this book, which is a member of the secret police. The secret police are like the Emperor's personal guard. He sends them on special missions, covert missions. They're like spies and assassins and all kinds of stuff. And if you see one of these guys, you can pretty much count yourself as good as dead. So they spot one of these guys as they're leaving the marketplace that's on the refueling station, and things are gonna get hectic from here on out. I really love how this scene kind of developed, because before that, I was kind of just, doing a little character building with Iggy, Jackson, and Noya, because there was a little bit of downtime in between the last chapter and this one. And I kind of like to have moments like that where the story slows down a little bit to build up characters, because while the plot itself may not be, zooming at light speed, there is still stuff happening. Like there's character growth and conversations and stuff that, adds to the lore and to the characters and not necessarily the plot. Because I think you kind of need to do both in a story. Like it shouldn't all just be, super plot driven. I think a good mix of plot, character, and themes and, all the other stuff that makes a good story is important to have. Gonna do one more writing session on Friday and see where I'm at the end of the week. See you guys then. I went and played some soccer today, as I tend to do that every Friday afternoon, and when I came home, I didn't really feel like doing anything. So when I finally did get around to sitting down to do a little writing session, it was like 6:50. But I did go ahead and plan out chapter 10, and I got a good chunk of the first scene done. I wrote about 700 and something words and then logged my progress into Trackbear, and as you guys can see, I've made some pretty decent progress since I started writing almost every day from the beginning of this series. Today is Sunday, June 29th. I didn't do any writing yesterday, which was Saturday, June 28th, or today. Part of the reason why I didn't do any writing yesterday was because I was at the beach all day participating in a beach soccer tournament. And actually, my team made it all the way to the semifinals, before we lost. It was a pretty tough loss. We were pretty tired out there and it was super hot, but I had a really fun time. I scored like 6 goals. I think I scored the most goals in the entire tournament. So yeah, it was a really fun time, but I didn't get to do any writing yesterday. So that brings my writing tally for the entire week to 7,657 words. And I was able to accomplish both of my goals, which were complete Act 1 and write 3,000 words in a single day. On Wednesday, I was able to write 4,132 words. And next week, I plan on trying to beat my entire word count tally for the entire week. Next week, I plan on fleshing out the entirety of Act 2 and hopefully starting some of those chapters in the vlog. I also plan on doing a lot more world building in the next episode, as I'll be introducing brand new characters and settings to the next couple of chapters. A member of my Discord community server actually introduced me to making flags for made up nations, and I thought that was a great idea, so expect to see some of that in the next video as well. If you guys want to be a part of my Discord server, you can always find the link down in the description of any video of mine. I'm honestly really enjoying the direction my story is going in, and I'm glad that I started this series, because before I was really struggling with Act 1 and seeing the direction of the story, but now that I've started and I'm being a little bit more consistent with my writing, I'm able to see a clear path on where the story is headed, and I'm getting really excited for what I have planned towards the end. Now let's turn it over to you guys. What was your writing goal for the week, and were you able to achieve it? And if not, what is your writing goal for next week, and what are you going to be doing to make sure that you can achieve that goal? I also want to ask you guys one final question. What's the biggest problem that you're facing in your project, and how do you plan on fixing it? If you guys enjoyed the first episode of the Anarchist Writing Vlogs, be sure to hit the like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you guys don't miss any future videos. That's going to be all from me this week. I'm LDJ, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.